attempt on former President Donald Trump. We do want to give this quick update that we just received from the Associated Press. President Biden is set to deliver some remarks to the nation after this apparent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. I want to go now to our political director, Andrew Rafferty. He joins us now from Milwaukee, where the Republican National Convention is set to kick off in less than 48 hours. Andrew, will you talk a little bit about the mood, the atmosphere? What are people talking about? How is this going to impact and change how we move forward with this huge event that is supposed to take place in just a few hours from now?
Yeah, well, good evening, Alexa and Dell. And you can see behind me here, this city has been in preparation really to honestly be fortified. Where these conventions happen, whether it's Milwaukee this week, Chicago in August, or some of the past cities that have hosted this, essentially become the safest cities in America. You not only have the presumptive nominees of each party, but high-level officials. So here in Milwaukee, you're going to have folks like House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is going to be spending his week here in Wisconsin. So this is already an intense and huge security operation, and I can only imagine that those plans are going through further scrutiny after what we saw in Pennsylvania. We're waiting for any official briefings, any official updates on how it might impact the security parameters and the security procedures around the RNC this week. So far, we've not gotten any official word, but common sense would tell you that those procedures are all going through intense scrutiny right now. The other side of this, of course, is the tone of these events. These are highly political events where both sides use it as an opportunity to contrast their message against their opponents. It is sometimes sharp. You have certain speakers who are essentially given the role of going after their political opponents. Obviously, with everyone thinking about taking a breather right now, kind of reflecting on where we are in our politics, there will be perhaps some editorial discussions about how this conversation and how this convention goes over the next week. Of course, this is the best opportunity Republicans have over the summer to portray their message to voters. We know that there generally is millions who are watching, whether it's not necessarily the entire time, but certainly on Thursday when we expect the former president to speak. Of course, all of that we are closely monitoring to see if there's any changes in the schedule or how this operates over the next week. Of course, this officially kicks off on Monday, guys.
Hey, Raf, give us an idea of the physical security that you have to go through to get into the venue itself. We're talking about ring upon ring upon ring of security before you actually get to go into the area where the venue will take place. Am I correct in saying so?
Yeah, you know, a lot of these different areas have different passes. It's like a concert where you're trying to get, if you want to get to the front row versus backstage versus meet the band. That's a very similar kind of analogy for how these political conventions work. Where I get as a reporter is obviously very different where somebody who's part of Donald Trump's inner circle would be able to get. Now, traditionally, a lot of these media organizations have a set number of passes where they have certain personnel that are around what is called the perimeter. That's essentially a gated area around downtown Milwaukee where you would need a pass to get in and out of. We are right now outside the perimeter because it hasn't necessarily been established just yet. But where this city is going to look like in a couple days is very different than how it looks right now where I am standing, guys.
Hey, Raf, let me ask you this question because things change quickly in our world. Have you seen any change in the security setup on the ground where you are right now in Milwaukee ever since this assassination attempt happened? Are they checking your credentials? Are you seeing an increased Secret Service detail? Are you seeing more and more people that look like law enforcement that have poured into the area?
Well, right now, and without going into too many details, because there are security considerations that the Secret Service essentially gives to media in order to respect so that they can do their job without having to worry about anything leaking publicly. But we know over the next 24 hours, this is essentially game time for the security and perimeter to be set around downtown Milwaukee. If you're a resident here, this is probably the time that your employer says, hey, don't worry about coming to work. If you're somebody who has a business here, this is when you have to start thinking about different ways to conduct your business over the next week. It's going to change the entire city over the next 6 days, guys.
Hey, Raph.